Welcome back, and in this segment we will be entering the artistic world of a renowned Egyptian photographer, plastic artist and more, Dr. Ayman Salah Taher. Ayman Salah Taher graduated from the Faculty of Fine Arts Design section, and then after that he worked in the field of textile industry, and he used to design his own patterns. Also he drew and painted on silk. After that he went into the field of underwater photography to be the first photographer to do documentary films under the water, especially in the area of Ras. In addition to that, he had his own tourism corporation and diving center, in addition, of course, to having several documentaries about Sinai and various areas in Egypt. In 1997, he was awarded the Best Photography Award from Italy, and an Italian publishing house about Sinai. In addition to that, he became one of Egypt's most renowned plastic artists as he entered the field of painting, following the footsteps of his late renowned father, the great painter Salah Taher. Today we will be entering his world, and we will be talking about his latest exhibition, The Other, in which he exhibited around 51 interesting paintings. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Taher. Now, plastic artist, photographer, and diver. Now, I'm interested to know, how did it all start, and how did you combine all these together?
Well, every one of these was in the right time in my life, in the right age. Diving, I was much younger, and I was very much into sports, and I don't think I can do that nowadays. So from diving and swimming.
How old were you when you started diving?
In a very young age, I was fascinated with the sea, and maybe I was 12.
Oh, that's young.
That was long time ago. And I felt that I have done what I have to do, and from there I went to art. It's continuity to painting, and I'm very much involved in that.
Well, I start first by your latest exhibition, The Other, in which you dwelt on the feelings of men and women and human beings in general. And in one of the articles you said that being an underwater photographer also influenced your paintings. So would you tell us more about that exhibition and the feelings that you projected in it?
Well, I'm interested also in psychology and a little bit of philosophy. So the relation between man and woman and man and woman and so on was always fascinating me. So I tried to capture that indirectly through my paintings. And but concerning the influence of the underwater world, I believe that an artist is a product of all his experience. So I spent a lot of years diving, a lot of time in the desert and the sea. So that was the conclusion.
Mr. Taher, you use different materials in your plastic art, and since you just told me that you are interested in philosophy, I believe you utilize philosophy also in your artistic work. So tell me about mixing philosophy, mixing materials in order to produce your art.
Well, concerning material, it's much easier. I always start with acrylic. It gives me a kind of freedom, and then I use oil on the top of the acrylic. It's very difficult to express yourself with ideas and thoughts through the paintings, because either you write or you paint. So I would leave that to the people who are going to see the exhibition, the next exhibition.
When looking at the critics' review, they all uploaded and praised the exhibition, and they said that there was the presence of the eye featuring a lot of the paintings, and that actually you were influenced by the eye as an element in your paintings. To what extent was that comment true?
Again, there is, it's very difficult to express that by words. Otherwise, I would say it and not painting it. But there is always somebody watching. That's what I'm trying to say. And yes, it's very true. Even today in the early morning, I was putting an eye on my last painting.
Really? You forgot to tell me about the philosophy in your artistic work. How do you involve philosophy in your work?
Indirectly. It's what you believe in. It's freedom. Art is kind of freedom. And if you read, for example, somebody like Eric Fromm, and his question is for freedom. You have to be free. And art is a way of being free.
Yes. Sir, you grew up in a house that is full of art, music, culture. In what way did this affect you as you grew up?
Well, I thought that this is how it should be. And then I was shocked when I was a little bit older that life is not like that. My bedroom was the studio of my father. He was also the director of the opera house, so I was influenced by all the music available at that time. I was surrounded with 45,000 books. I remember that, for example, my first word was Van Gogh, not my father or mother.
Really?
And so on. So I think I was lucky. I was grown up with, surrounded by, first of all, Abbas Al-Aqad is the one who gives me my name. Tawfiq Al-Hakim was best friend of Salah Taher. Naguib Mahfouz opened my first exhibition when I was 12, and so on. I remember very well when Zakaria Ahmed and Kulthum used to give us a visit every Tuesday, and so on. It was very rich.
Now, when looking at your works, some of them are multi-layered, and I can see, although they are layered, yet it's transparent. Like I can see the figures, and above it there are several layers. Of course, the curves and the bent lines are a feature of your work, but also sometimes you overlay it with geometrical designs as well. So, would you talk to us about your technique, and especially being multi-layered, yet it's transparent and visible is quite an interesting and difficult way to paint in it.
That's very clever of you. I think you should be an art critic.
Thank you.
But it's very true. And again, it's because I use acrylic first, and maybe first layer is acrylic, second layer acrylic, and so on. And then when I add oil, it gives this feeling of transparency. Concerning curves, it's the human figure, which, and also it's the underwater world, as I was telling you.
Yet it's abstract in a sense, like we can sense the figure, but it's not really clear, it's in an abstract form. Why did you choose the abstract school?
Believing that art is creation and not imitation. And I'm a photographer. If I want to just to copy nature, I will use my camera. But if I want to add something different, what we'll call it creation, and that leads to freedom also. That's why I do that.
Mr. Taher, being a diver and exposing yourself to the beauty of the underwater world, seeing all the colors, and still you are an artist, how did the fact that you're a diver affect your artistic work in terms of colors, in terms of shapes, freedom as you mentioned?
It's indirectly. I just found that most of my paintings, or many of them, would include a fish or a piece of coral or the color scheme of the underwater world. Especially that our Red Sea is very rich. Nothing like our Red Sea in this world. That due to the visibility is extremely good, which allows the sun to go to deeper layers. Sun is energy and energy is life. That that gives the Red Sea a special flavor.
Significance.
Exactly.
When looking at your works, of course, you utilize many colors, but I've noticed that many of your paintings have the cold colors, like you have the black and the gray together, and then you have the blues and the orange and the browns more. So is it the sense of being under the water where it's colorful but not as shiny because the sun penetrates the water, the degrees itself of the colors are different than above the water? Or is it your personal feelings? What determines the colors for you when you're painting?
Back to, well, I don't know. I do it because I feel that I want to do it. But psychologically speaking, we go through moods. So, of course, the gray color and the black and white has a meaning. The red has another meaning. The yellow, each color has a different meaning. And I believe that we go through certain periods expressing ourselves. I mean, all over the world. For example, Picasso has different periods, and they call it according to the colors he used to use. So on.
Sir, you held more than 20 exhibitions in Egypt, around the world, in London, in Paris, in the United States. Those exhibitions were for photography and plastic art as well. What were the messages that you were trying to send through your exhibitions?
Well, I was trying to tell the world how beautiful is the Red Sea, and I was very keen about Ras Muhammad, which is our first national park. That was years ago. So many of these exhibitions by the name of Ras Muhammad, and also documentaries. I have done a documentary for the National Geographic, another documentary for Nature Watch, the British television, and so on. Ras Muhammad was the main interest.
Now, you were awarded many awards for photography, including for your book, which was published in 1996, and you got the award in 1997 about Sinai. Would you share with us that experience, please?
Well, this book was published by a very well-known and established Italian called Franco Maria Ricci. And the one who financed this book was one of the oil companies.
The experience itself of it as a photographer, going through Sinai and photographing it. Tell us more. How do you work? Do you take multiple shots and choose the best, or do you wait for the decisive moment, the decisive light exposure, and then you take your shot?
That's another great question, because while I was doing this book, I use the cameras, the old ones. You know, nowadays the digital cameras is different, completely different story. So I have to be always there in the right time, in the right moment. Sometimes I have to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to be just there in time. And it's one shot. Either you have the shot or you don't have it. So it was completely different than nowadays. But it gives me a great pleasure. And it's way of understanding nature also. So, and people, and the flora and fauna of the Red Sea. It was a way of knowing and learning about the life in Sinai, either above water or under
Sinai
water.
is actually very rich, sir, if we're talking about the colors under the water and the coral reefs and the types of colored fish. But it's not only under the water, it's also on the surface of the earth. I mean, you could see beautiful layers of colors in the mountains in Sinai. You can see the different colors in the traditional outfits and the clothes of the Bedouins. So everything actually there it is inspirational, if I may say, in Sinai. How far was that inspirational to you in all your artistic works?
It's very true. As a matter of fact, one of the articles I wrote about my experience being on the surface, looking to the mountains, very harsh, very strong, and very
elegant and beautiful as well.
And once I put my head in the water, which is a matter of 30 centimeters, it's a completely different world, full of life, full of details, full of color. So it was combining this and that in a fraction of a second.
Now, definitely, underwater photography is a totally different thing. It requires different techniques because you have the water pressure, you have certain density of light, then you have the various life forms that you would like to monitor without scaring them away. So tell us more about your experience as an underwater photographer.
Well, it's I don't maybe the background of being an artist, and I want to capture all this beauty. Well, definitely, you have to be very much at ease underwater. So you take your pictures using the camera as a second nature. You don't think about it. That takes a lot of practice, a lot of diving, till you get this feeling. That's the main thing. And then you have to know about the behavior of the fish, of when you will see the fish, what time, and why and where. Sometimes a lot of fish you can't see them except at night. Others would change color during the day, and so on.
Really, that's interesting. I didn't know that because,
Oh, yes.
well, to me, I didn't have much of an experience in diving. I dived only once as an introduction, but I did some snorkeling, and I tried actually to have this courage to go. But at night, fish that change its color, that's really interesting.
And some
Anyway,
of these
yes.
fish would have a cocoon during the night.
Wow. Wow. Well, actually, it's been very interesting talking to you, Mr. Ayman Salah Taher, plastic artist, photographer, diver. It's been very interesting talking to you. Thank you very much for being
Thank
with
you.
us.
The pleasure is mine.
Thank you very much. And now we will be looking into a report about the Ismailia Folk Art Festival.
It's actually the Ismailia Festival
Yeah,
for
okay.
documentaries. The
Okay.
Ismailia Festival for documentaries and short films.
Okay.